And now for our feature presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Botching It Up podcast. Every bruise, bump, and botch. Wrestling, you've been put on notice. Let's get ready to ramble!
What's up? This is the Botching Up podcast, and today we're talking Royal Rumble 1990. This is part one of our 90s saga. This is going to take us forever. As always, you're with me, Benito, and my good friend Basil.
Beefcake, when I'm through with you, your ribs might not grow back the right way.
Dude, they're getting better and better each week.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So yeah, we're starting in the first month of 1990, Royal Rumble in January, and we're going to do all of the pay-per-views throughout the 90s.
How long do you think we'll last, Ben, honestly?
I reckon we're going to get to 92, and then we're going to be like, let's just do something in 2006.
Oh, I mean, 100%. And we'll just skip 10, 15 years and go straight to MVP versus Kane in an Inferno match.
Yeah, well, so let's not ruin this saga before we even start it.
Well, I'm enjoying it so far. I've seen two. I quite enjoyed them.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about Royal Rumble 1990, which is the third official Royal Rumble. You'll know this better than me, but it's the fourth one because there's an unofficial one, right?
Yeah, so don't quote me exactly, but I'm pretty sure they had a Royal Rumble house show, which was Pat Paterson's idea, and what was his name? One Man Gang won it, I think.
Right.
And it was such a great thought backstage. They enjoyed it so much they thought there's money in this, and then they had their inaugural one. So they did an unofficial Royal Rumble at some point on a house show.
So officially, this is the third ever Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So the fans in attendance kind of know the gist of what's going on. So this was held in Orlando, Florida, in the Orlando Arena to 16,000 people. I said months ago on a different show that we watched, but don't you always feel that when you watch these older shows, the crowds look bigger than they are?
There is something about the atmosphere or the vibe or the layout maybe of the venue which just makes it like a big money event. And it kind of, it's got a very similar crowd layout to a boxing match, which I think maybe is the thing that's adding the aesthetic and momentum to show how big the crowd actually looks when it's rather small.
I don't know what it is about 1990s venues, but they just always look better than nowadays.
We on another episode, on the next episode, we'll be discussing Clash of Champions 10. That had 3,000 people, and it still looked bigger than most shows these days. So, just wanted to say that very happy with all of these facts that we're including, and it was held on the 21st of January 1990.
There we go. We open the show with Vince in his most growly alpha voice possible, listing off all the participants that are going to be in the Royal Rumble match tonight, and there are some absolute legends in this. Everyone from the late 80s, 90s is in this match, really, for WWF. There's
some even some dream moments in the actual match itself. I really miss Vince McMahon doing his own voiceovers.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was cool.
I didn't think he'd list all 30.
Yeah, it went on for a minute.
Like, these days, they'd try to hide the Boogeyman or Santino Marella surprise entries. They wouldn't.
No, Vince was trying to get the jobbers over just as much.
Yeah, the Red Rooster. Bro.
And then we get into ringside, and Tony Schiavone is on commentary. That woke me up. I got well excited for this.
I actually had no idea he ever worked for the WWF. I thought he was like a Sting, like he'd never ever been to the dark side before, which is why I assumed he worked MLW, AEW, WCW, just refused to go to the big evil Titan Towers.
It was a crazy weekend of wrestling for me because, like you said, we're going to do Clash next, and JR is calling that show. And I was like, this is totally backwards. Where are we?
Yeah, what's going on
happening
here?
in 1990?
Some great hosts as well. Like you had Jim Cornette in the WCW show. Here you had Jesse Ventura wearing Mickey Mouse ears and a polo Mickey sweater.
Oh, going on and on about the fact that he'd just come from Space Mountain and he'd just gone to Disneyland.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a great moment where he asks if Brutus the Barber Beefcake cuts his own hair because it looks terrible. This guy is literally got no hair with a rat's tail in the back.
And he rips into Schiavone like the entire night, which I guess is the whole point of the heel color guy.
So apparently Ventura was the first person to come up with the heel commentator. That's why he made so much money, and how Vince just allowed him to do whatever he wanted. It wasn't really thought of before.
See, I would have acclaimed that to Bobby Heenan.
You'd think, but Heenan didn't commentate for another couple of years. But what's interesting to me here is actually the face-heel dynamic in the matches and the way that Ventura responds to them. Because a lot of the time, the faces were very heelish. By calling it out, Ventura actually sounds like he's making sense. Like he sounds like the logical dude when he's trying to be a heel and talking about how the faces are cheating or something. Well, they are.
Yeah.
You know, and I find it really interesting that the crowd is so hot. They know exactly who's the good guy, even though in the match you can't necessarily tell.
We almost have that problem today, really, don't we? It's
Yeah, same
very
thing.
similar situation. So let's get into this opening match of the night. And the crowd were hot. They were crazy going into this first match. And by the time that this match ended, there was crickets. Not a great opening contest to kick off a hot crowd.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't believe how over the Bushwhackers were. People were going mental when they stomped their legs a little bit. And as you said, the crowd was so hot. They milked the crowd for like 5 minutes. Do you even blame them? Raymond Rougeau and the other Rougeau, they look like actual decent workers. I didn't check anything out with them, but they look like easily they can work. This looked like a walk in the park for them. To the point where I think the bearded Rougeau looked seriously hungover. Because he was probably like, oh, I'm working the Bushwhackers.
He doesn't need to be 100%, it's fine.
Yeah, it's clear that they were talented. So a very easy day at work for them. A lot of biting.
Wow, the Bushwhackers, not just the biting, a lot of licking. And so the Bushwhackers end up winning the match. Did you notice on their way out, they licked children's foreheads?
Yeah, that was their gimmick, man. And people loved it. They ate it up.
Even in the 90s, that's got to be weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, not as weird as Norman the Lunatic, but that's a different show for a different time.
I suppose this is 30 years ago.
There's some weird stuff in 1990.
It's just weird how the Bushwhackers are even a thing. Never mind being over.
This is what I think of, along with several other matches on this card. This is what I think of when I think of 1990 WWF wrestling. It's all posturing, it's all pantomime, it's all parading around the ring and poses. And the crowd loves it because this is aimed squarely at 6 to 7 year olds who just wants to see larger than life characters, which is
Just wants to be licked by a bushwhacker.
Yeah, which is step one as to why I think if we were in this period of time, we would definitely be watching other products.
We'd definitely be on WCW.
And that made me think. So apart from for you, I would say from the dawn of the Attitude Era to 2006, 2007. For me, from 2001 to 2006, 2007, give or take those periods in which we were kind of WWE hardcore, pretty much the entirety of the rest of our lives we have spent on varying sides of indie promotions or smaller promotions. We're just not WWE people.
We've always been in favour of the second company, whatever the second company has been.
Yeah, but I mean, it only just dawned on me that the amount of WWE television that we've consumed over the years, despite the fact that we've always sought out other promotions. Like when the whole Big Bang started again, I went straight looking for MLW and NWA. You went straight to AEW. We were so excited that we didn't have to watch WWE. And I feel like we've been doing that since we were standing in a playground talking about the existence of TNA.
Yep, very true. And Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor holds a special place in my heart. I don't watch them week in, week out, but how excited I got when that first show after quarantine was on. Like, I sent it to you and I was like, you need to watch it right now today.
After watching that EC3 promo, I really need to recheck that show out. I watched the first episode and loved it. I need to catch up with that.
Ring of Honor is kind of like the gold standard of indie level, you know, like slightly below where TNA was and where AEW is.
Yeah.
I think Impact are aiming to be higher than that. Ring of Honor have always sat on that level, and I think they always will be. They're not even going to try to be bigger than what they are.
Well, Impact might finally make it with Who Shot Johnny Bravo.
That's the storyline to get them national exposure.
Look at
sure.
this, man. We're like 5 minutes in. We've already gone off track.
Right, back on track. So we're as lost with Royal Rumble as the crowd currently are. So they send it back to Mean Gene. He's backstage with Ted DiBiase and Virgil. DiBiase is pissed off that he's got the number one pick, and for some reason he's blaming it on Virgil. And I just love every interview I ever see that Mean Gene really is mean. He really rubs it in.
He savaged DiBiase. He took the piss out of him so much. Virgil was just looking at his nails. Weird promo. All of the promos tonight were a little bit weird. Some of them were completely nonsensical. Some of them were like obviously dudes on cocaine. Just strange ways to build a story throughout this.
I think this whole show was a bit weird. I think maybe because it was only the third Rumble, they didn't really know what kind of beast they were contending with. And I don't think it's really until the late 90s that they really nailed down a perfect Rumble show. Because it's a one-match show. It always has been, even now. And back then, like you said, like all the matches are completely all over the place.
Also, the Rumble made no sense back then. It was just literally 30 dudes in a ring because your champion won it. It wasn't for a championship opportunity. It was just one big old battle royal.
No, it was an achievement in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Like the Saudi Cup now.
Yeah. So after that, we're straight back into the ring with the Genius versus Brutus the Beefcake. And Brutus the Beefcake is huge, man. People love him.
Yeah, he is. He is roided as well. He is jacked and he is over. Probably because his best mate is Hogan, which is how he survived through a 30-year career.
Yeah, because he hasn't got much else going on.
I thought the Genius was great. I've never seen the Genius wrestle. I know it's Randy Savage's brother, Lanny Poffo. I just always assumed he was a manager, and apparently this is one of his few matches, and I have no idea why. He was incredibly charismatic. His kicks and his punches looked great. His offense was really, really tight. I didn't really get why this guy wasn't used as a permanent wrestler, really.
He actually even controls pretty much 90% of the match, and then Brutus Beefcakes just gets a reversal here and there, and the crowd goes crazy for the reversal.
Brutus's finisher is a sleeper hold, and the crowd still pops mental over it.
Yeah. So I think the Genius plays a perfect heel here, and I was listening to... I get confused because I basically listen to JR and Schiavone's podcast at the same time. And right now, with them being commentators on the wrong shows, I'm confused who said what. But anyway, one of them said that the Genius was really popular backstage. And they were really, at this point, trying to push and make him big. So like you said, it's weird that we don't see much of him.
It's a bit of a shame, really, because apparently they picked him up, WCW picked him up and put him under contract, probably because of Savage. And he said in an interview, he literally got paid 4 to 5 years and never got called up for TV. He sat on his paycheck for half a decade and never appeared on TV, never did anything, which is just, it sums up WCW in that era and Eric Bischoff, really. Like, they literally forgot he was on the books.
Well, they did that with a lot of guys, didn't they? WCW.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of a sad career, really, because this guy had so much talent. He was like more than able to do all sorts of different things in a heelish manner.
Shit gimmick though, the Genius.
Oh, definitely. But he did his best with it, and he sort of made something out of it, which was entertaining. So.
He starts the match off reciting a poem.
A really bad one.
Yeah, so bad. So bad. You can tell like he's not even 100% into this poem. He himself doesn't think it's great.
Yeah. What was it with wrestlers in 1990? There's two things which really kind of weirded me out looking with 21st century eyes. The first one is this move that they go to over and over again, which is a punch to the gut for like a full flip.
Oh yeah, they punched him in the gut and then the guy taking it flips over onto his back.
Yeah, and they did it in 3 matches.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's gone. That's such a weird, shitty Young Bucks thing to do.
Is it that the punch has so much force behind it that it just sends the guy into the air?
Oh, I mean, I guess
Is that the thought?
I guess a lot of wrestlers have a lot of force in their punches then, because this was a very, very common move amongst the locker room of WWF 1990.
That feels very Popeye.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't feel very real. I mean, you never saw Mike Tyson do a flip after taking a gut punch.
Oh, dude, I listened to a tiny little bit of Bruce Pritchard talking about Rumble 90, and I turned it off because he was telling Conrad that WWF created pay-per-view and sold more pay-per-views than Mike Tyson. And Conrad's just like dead silent because it's like obvious bullshit. But Pritchard saying over and over again, yeah, WWE created the pay-per-view market and outsold Mike Tyson pay-per-views 2-1.
That's crazy. That's not true at all.
That's a
Maybe the Manias. Maybe the Manias did as well as Tyson matches.
That's a real pig's fly statement. There's no way that's true.
To give him any credit, I guess WWF brought pay-per-view in for the wrestling industry, but they didn't invent it.
No, they didn't invent it, and I refuse to believe that they made more money from it than boxing. But there you go. Another thing I found a little bit weird, which is quite prevalent in old wrestling. It was prevalent over the first 2 shows of 1990 we watched. They're in a submission move and they're frustrated or they feel pain and they keep banging the mat with their hand, and then the crowd's like getting confused because they think they've tapped out and the ref goes, he has to keep like going, no, they're just angry, you know. Why was that a thing?
I feel like that's something wrestlers even today get told off for doing, because you see them sometimes they bang the mat and then they have to stop themselves doing it a third time.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Who does that? Like Kevin Owens does that, and then there's other guys that do it as well.
Probably Sammy.
Fucking Sammy. I love Sammy. I don't know why I said that.
So this was a clusterfuck finish.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect runs out.
In a beautiful singlet, by the way. That was a wonderful Mr. Perfect singlet.
So Mr. Perfect ran out to help the Genius. It ends in a DQ. And then they start fighting over the shears. This is the beginning of an angle, and it was cold out of nowhere. And then what happened in the Rumble was the climax.
Not a good way to start an angle. The Perfect, I love Mr. Perfect, but Mr. Perfect's stuff on this show was not great. From the promo to the feud to his Rumble entrance, it was bad stuff. Brutus got royally screwed by the man here. Like, this is a different universe. Hebner wakes up just in time to like call the disqualification, and then 3 refs run down to stop Perfect from beating up Brutus. Like, where were these 3 refs? And then there was a double disqualification.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was a
like,
double
that's not fair, is it? I guess because Brutus, the barber, Beefcake, barbered.
It's in the name, it was going to happen.
Exactly. Why are they giving this man such a hard time?
He did try to cut the guy's hair mid-match as well.
He did it pretty brutally as well.
It was very weird.
It's a bad buzz cut.
Yeah, I just looked up the WrestleMania card. So this is the start of Mr. Perfect, Brutus Beefcake feud, and they're going to have a match at Mania. Mr. Perfect gets into it with Hogan, is it, in the Rumble, and that's the climax of their current feud.
Did we actually get a Dusty Rhodes Randy Savage blow off on that show?
On Mania?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was leading up to.
So that's an actual Mania match, Dusty Rhodes versus Randy Savage?
Yeah, it's a mixed match. With the women that are on, yeah. So we'll get there in a second because that's a whole load of something else.
That's something.
We're backstage with Sean Mooney, and he's talking to Bobby Heenan and the tag champions Andre the Giant and Haku with Rick Rude. This is a stable, and they're just all arguing over their numbers.
Haku was atrociously blocked out by the commentator here.
Yeah.
And
Andre.
It was amateur hour, this camera shot. I don't know. It wasn't up to WWF's par even in 1990. This was pretty bad. And again, another bad, convoluted, weird, screaming promo. None of these promos made sense throughout the show.
So I think really all these promos are just arguing or talking about their numbers. It's all just building up the concept of the Rumble.
Okay.
Because it's still new. It's only the 3rd one. It's still new. Then we get, for me, match of the night, a submission match, Greg Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart versus Rugged Ronnie Garvin. And I only call it my match of the night because I've never seen Garvin before, and this guy nailed it.
This was my match of the night as well. It's clear from the outset that these two were seen as the workhorses of the WWF as opposed to the superstars, because they were the first and last guys on this pay-per-view to not get an entrance. It was sort of booked in a different way. It felt like an actual competition. And this thing, way more than anything else on the show, felt like NWA. This felt like an actual match.
It did. It felt like a real contest, and they hated each other. And they had a really cool story that they were both trying to finish each other off with the figure four leg lock, but they were both wearing like footballer shin pads.
Right, so this is what I'm talking about.
The figure four didn't hurt.
This is what I'm saying. Where who's the face and who's the heel here? Because Greg Valentine is obviously
right, so I think Valentine's meant to be the heel.
Right, but then why is he booed for finally getting the figure four on Ronnie Garvin without his cheating leg brace on? Surely that's the cheat. He's the cheat, Ronnie Garvin. He's put on a fake leg brace because he doesn't want to take the figure four like a man, right?
Right, yeah.
Shivani says at one point here that he can see looks of concern on Greg Valentine's face. I've literally never seen any emotion on Greg Valentine's face at all.
Brilliant.
This went hard. This went fast, man.
Yeah, I didn't even realise, just back to the shin guard, I didn't even realise he was wearing one during the first figure four leg lock. They didn't really tell. I assume there's a whole story going into this match that's been on TV or whatever. So the fans know something that we don't at this point. But Garvin just no-sells the figure four, and I thought he just completely Hulk Hogan's out of it.
A couple of people Hulk Hogan'd out of this on this show. I mean, Brutus Beefcake hardly sold any of the Geniuses shit. It seemed like a pretty egotistical roster. But the big story of the match, right, was Valentine finally getting the proper figure four on Garvin without the leg brace.
Yeah.
So psychologically, that's a face working to take the heel down from his cheating tactics and get him on a level base with him.
Yeah, but Valentine was wearing the shin guards as well.
But he was supposedly injured, whereas Garvin was just wearing one.
Right, okay.
I don't know. I just thought the face-heel dynamic was pretty weird here. I really enjoyed the match. It was quite aggressive. But, I mean, the first time they went for a pinfall, I was like, right, well, he's forgot. Then they did it again and again. And I thought, oh, maybe this is a work. Maybe, like, they're trying to... I thought maybe this is actually pretty clever. They're trying to make the crowd remember that this is a submission match.
I thought the same thing.
13 pinfalls later, bro. They have quite clearly forgotten. Because they were going like in pure heat moments, like near win moments, going for the pinfall. You could see Ronnie Garvin like slapping himself inside his head. Just over, and it really kind of annoyed me after a while.
I think even the referee was getting pissed off because he just kept like tapping the guy on the shoulder, like, just come on, get up.
Yeah, there was a lot of messy spots here, but there was a sense of dislike genuinely emanating between the two, which I thought really added to the effectiveness.
Oh yeah, they went hard. I don't know if they were just selling really well, they're good sellers, or whether there was actually some real distaste there.
It felt a little bit like there was a little bit of distaste there for each other.
Was the idea of a submission match quite new in 1990, or were these two just not clued in with what was going on?
I think it was probably semi-regular on the independent. Well, I say independent, but it was all territories back then. The non-New York market,
right?
I would say, and I think at this point Garvin and Valentine have been in the WWF for a good couple of years. So I think honestly they just keep forgetting because they're so used to working the formulaic house shows, and I highly doubt that they were usually given this much time to do a good match in the WWF. So I think there was a little bit of nerves going on there as well. They went for their usual heat spots, their usual spots that they popped a crowd or added to the drama, and then realised that those spots couldn't be used.
Yeah.
I think it was genuine mistakes.
Fair enough. Right, so every time that we watch a 90s show, usually half the card I've heard of but not seen matches in, or I haven't seen much of them. So I'd never heard of Ronnie Garvin. And just like the other WCW stuff we've watched, I kind of pick a guy every show and I go down a bit of a wormhole looking into this guy. So I got a few fun facts about Ronnie Garvin for you.
I love a good fun fact.
So he is the stepfather of Jimmy Garvin, who's a member of the Freebirds, but there's only a 7-year age difference.
Wrestling.
Yeah, that's some redneck right there. And then, so his career didn't last much longer than 1990, unfortunately, in WWF. And then he went on to the independents, and he kind of did a few bits that I could see on his Wikipedia, at least, all the way up until 2000s. And then his very last match on just some shitty local show was in a battle royale, and who but Viscera eliminated him from that battle royale. And that was his retirement match.
Do you think Viscera said, "Oh, thank you for the opportunity, pal. Like this, this is such a fucking legacy that you're leaving behind. I'm so honored to be throwing you over the top rope tonight."
I don't think so. I think Viscera is a bigger star than this guy, unfortunately. But
That's really sad, actually.
yeah,
Did
it's a shame because I watched this match. I was like, oh, this guy must have done some great things. Probably in WCW. That's why I've never heard of him. And not really. His career didn't.
Did he ever go to another promotion after WWF, like another big one?
No big ones. He jumped around a lot of territories for the last couple of years while that was still a thing. And then that's it.
That's unfortunate. I really enjoyed his work in this match, and I really like Valentine as well. Obviously, Valentine's got a long and storied career. I thought Ronnie Garvin would have at least done like a lot of stuff on an AWA show or something. That's sad. I also learned from you that he's not Dino Bravo, who was assassinated.
Yeah, no, it's not
Those
that guy.
those two look similar.
Fair enough.
Yeah, good match. 3.5 star.
And then, where are we?
An awful Mr. Perfect promo.
Yeah, Mean Gene again with Mr. Perfect.
He said that he had beat up Beefcake because of winning, because he wins. He's a winner. That's why he beats up Beefcake. I find it really weird, actually, to criticize Mr. Perfect, because I've liked pretty much everything I've ever seen him do, but poor performance on this show from him.
So Giovanni said that this pretty much came out of nowhere, this new feud that was going to go into Mania. So I think maybe Perfect's just taken off guard and working with some shitty material.
Yeah, it feels like he might have been given a disservice, definitely. Plus, I mean, do people really want to work with Beefcake?
I've not seen much of Beefcake stuff, to be honest.
He's not great, man. He's spent his entire career following Hogan around. He's been involved in some dreadful gimmicks. He was like a Black Scorpion or something. Like he wore a mask and faced Hogan at Starrcade '94. He's always just kind of hung around,
Right.
and he always gets put into at least the mid card, just like the Nasty Boys in
Well,
TNA.
yeah, here's the thing. I always thought he was one half of the Nasty Boys. But I know now I'm completely wrong about that.
Well, I guess Hogan has a facial type for his friends. Who knows?
And then Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah.
I basically thought all three of those guys was just one guy that was best friends with Hogan. But no, there's three different people. So after that, we're back in the ring with Brother Love.
Oh, God.
Oh my God. I couldn't hear a fucking thing he said. Like, could you make out what he was saying?
Not really. This is one of those moments that I will tell you about every week where my girlfriend looks over the TV and then regrets that she did. She's just like, there are limits to her accepting stuff in wrestling. Like, Brother Love was one of them. She just looked at me and she's like, what the fuck is wrong with the guy's face? I'm like, I don't know. That's red face paint, I guess. And she's like, but why? What's the... Also, am I the only person that can't see Brother Love as a comedy character? He looks fucking terrifying. Could you imagine him, like, running at you in the dark, narrow hallway, breathing heavily?
Was this meant to be comedy?
I think so.
This was not comedy.
I wanted to ask you, I forgot to look it up before the podcast. Do you know why Brother Love was created as a gimmick? Because I'm really interested to find out what the hell this was.
I don't know, no.
It's definitely fascinating. I don't understand why it exists.
Well, so he's a Southern preacher, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going on here.
And his face is red because he's always out of breath because he's about to have a coronary heart attack and he's shouting too much. But, I mean, don't you find this guy really scary? Like, really creepy?
I found him annoying.
Okay.
Yeah, he is creepy. I give you that.
I thought he was creepier than The Undertaker, dude. He shouts a lot about Sensational Sherry turning up. He calls Sapphire fat about 40 times.
Sapphire comes out, so him and Sherry are, like, throwing trash on her. I don't even know why Sapphire even bothered coming to the ring. Just don't even give the bullies the time of day, right?
Yeah.
But she comes out, and then she stands there and just takes this abuse for really too long. It feels like a Vince thing.
This was definitely a Vince thing. This is where it doesn't matter how many years have passed. This whole thing is bad blood booking to make Vince pop and embarrass certain individuals and sort of just bully them because, for some reason to do with his ego. Like, we all know why Dusty Rhodes was put with Sapphire. It's because Vince McMahon thought Sapphire was unattractive and he wanted to embarrass Dusty Rhodes. We all know why Dusty Rhodes had a a polka dot design, which was very unflattering on him. It's because, again, Vince McMahon didn't like Dusty Rhodes because he was the most successful person in wrestling outside of WWF.
I assume Dusty Rhodes didn't get any control of the booking in WWF.
Oh, definitely not. No, this whole thing definitely 100% stinks of Dusty Rhodes taking the money.
Yeah, but my point being is that Vince is one-upping him. He's saying, yeah, you're a good booker, but look what I can do, and just trashes his momentum.
And what I love the most about this is Dusty Rhodes is made to grind Sapphire and wear polka dots that make him look really fat. And he's still over like a rover, dude.
Yeah,
when
the crowd loved it.
Vince would probably got really pissed off because when he came down for that rumble, he was the third biggest pop of the match.
Yeah, so during this segment at least, he runs out, again, massive pop. I mean, the crowd, other than the submission match, which was pretty good, the crowd has been worn out by dire shit this whole show. And then Macho Man comes out, he's obviously heel right now, and then attacks Dusty, and they brawl. This is, I think, ongoing, not the start, this is ongoing on their feud that leads up to Mania. With a mixed tag match with Sapphire and Queen Sherry.
Right, so in the future, as in now, right, I'm sitting down with you and I say, right, we need to create this angle. And you say, okay, who's the angle with? And I say, Randy Savage and Dusty Rhodes. What are you going to do with it? Do you think you would have come out with this?
Absolutely not. just throw both men on the mic and let them have full control over it.
Oh, it was bad.
Both...
This is bad.
Yeah.
Considering the two involved. And I know Sherry's a fantastic manager as well. This was just I turned the show off. You know I turned the show off. This was my break for the day.
No, I did as well. I'm with you. I after watching this, I was like, I don't want to watch this right now. I never want to see Brother Love ever again, and I feel bad for Dusty.
I didn't feel.
Honestly,
I started looking up Brother Love segments because I just found him such a alien character. Like he did something to my psyche. He fucked me up. Like I really want to see Brother Love with like chicken grease running down his shirt, like just chasing some teenagers with a hatchet or something. I can book that. Bruce Pritchard's still going. I'll send him the idea.
Well, I think this is towards the end of his run as Brother Love. I think this year or next year it's over.
Yeah, so did you know he was the first manager of The Undertaker?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was with he brought The Undertaker in.
As Brother Love?
Yes.
That's weird.
Yeah, really weird, right?
That's very weird.
So The Undertaker was originally something completely different.
Yeah, that doesn't click at all. That's completely out. Oh well. So we're backstage again with Jim Duggan, and it's a Jim Duggan interview. There's nothing to say.
He fucks up saying approach 3 times, and I hope he never hears this because he'd beat the shit out of me. But he literally says, "I'll see you eye to eye" while being cross-eyed. It's not the right choice of words really for good old Jim. Anyway, Big Boss Man versus Jim Duggan.
Right, and if the crowd wasn't already dead enough, let's just throw this piece of shit at him. The only redeeming factor out of this entire thing is Boss Man actually does an enziguri. I didn't even know he had it in him.
You really didn't like this show, did you?
I actually did, but for the wrong reasons. I was laughing at it, not with it.
Yeah, same. You got to give it to Boss Man for wrestling pretty much his entire career in a shirt and trousers.
Oh, yeah, but did you see how much he sweat in this match?
Yeah, so bad.
I'm not blaming him. Like you said, he's got a lot of heavy clothing on there.
Also, I don't want to nitpick the storylines, man, but would you expect a guy hailing from the Department of Corrections as having a manager called Slick?
Boss Man has always confused me as why this has been a successful gimmick.
Definitely, I agree with you. Like in every single iteration, right up to the Ministry days, I don't really get it.
And I think a lot of people say it wasn't successful, and maybe not ever as his push, but he lasted. The longevity of the character, years.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the few guys that worked in early 90s and then somehow got his way into an attitude gimmick. Also, I assume Jim Duggan's music was taken away due to copyright on the network. There was no music
Yeah,
when it
I
came
was
out.
going to ask about that.
I don't know for sure, but I actually, if it wasn't, the idea of having a patriot carrying an American flag coming out purely to the crowd reaction, that's pretty cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it felt special when he walked out with no music because he screamed because you could hear him doing his hey-oh. So it
And
did seem pretty cool. Do you reckon it's just that he has the national anthem as
yeah, but why
his-
would they edit that out? That's a really weird thing to edit out.
No, like maybe they were using a copy of like some army or marching band or something, and now they don't have the rights. To
Sure, like that does happen on the network quite a lot actually. Especially if you go into ECW. If you ever watch a Sandman match, it's not Enter the Sandman. They can't be bothered to pay for
it.
Metallica.
Right. Well, I mean, why would they
Yeah.
for something that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another fun thing I noticed in this match is when Hacksaw Jim Duggan pulls the ring drape, there's no opening. There's no, I guess ladders and tables weren't needed for maintenance. There's no under the ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a box. Well weird.
That is weird. This era, they didn't. Well, ladders weren't even a thing at all yet, were they? Well, not until the Shawn Michaels match.
Yeah, definitely not. But, you know...
Tables?
Yeah, I think there had been a table or two used in smaller territories. But again, it's one of those things that Vince McMahon spent his entire career trying to get away from wrestling, right? He wants sports entertainment. He thinks wrestling is redneck and doesn't sell. And he might have a point to an extent. Gimmick matches, blood, tables and chairs, he didn't want anything to do with it. I'm pretty sure he was probably a little bit nervous by having a submission match. He just wasn't interested in those gimmick things because he related it to just trash Texas promotions. Which is why...
And then he invented the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's another reason why he bullied guys like Dusty, you know.
Yeah, I suppose I get it. But there was an awful lot of chairs used in this one show.
It's true. Maybe the chair is allowed because it's used for seating.
So the guys on the other podcast, they were saying that chairs still had somewhat of a meaning at this point because they weren't overly used. So it was still kind of a shocking moment to see someone get hit by a chair. But then on this show, there were 3 matches had some sort of chair shot, either during the match or immediately after.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that's overusage in one show.
There's a lot of things that I'm glad to have realised have lasted 30 years. Like everybody picking on the big man in the Rumble so that they can get him out.
Yeah.
That's been done every year, apparently, since 1990.
Keeping it fresh. Yeah, so
This is a bit of a nothing match. More brawling and big man moves. Exactly what you expect from WWF 1990.
So DQ after Boss Man hits Hacksaw with a nightstick.
That's another DQ there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This show is almost a nothing show. It's just the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, this is preposterous 1990 wrestling posing action. Buy your action figures at your local convenience store. It's most normal, you know. I hope that feud went somewhere, did it?
Not that I know of.
Right.
Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Big Boss Man versus Akeem. So, no.
You need to watch that Dino Bravo Dark Side of Wrestling documentary. That's really, really cool. Well, interesting. About Dino Bravo's mob ties and how his murder was never proven. It never understood who killed him. Or if he, like, there's ideas of him killing himself. But the door was unlocked, and apparently he had been getting in deep heat with Mob. And he was killed, I'm not sure while on contract, but maybe just shortly after. He's had a very interesting life himself.
So even while wrestling, he was involved with the mob?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. A guy in the locker room with him at the time kept telling him that he was getting too deep into this stuff. And he just obviously didn't listen. But that's a really hushed up story. We get to one of my favourite Shivani lines. Shivani says WrestleMania is on April the 1st this year. Ventura says, isn't April 1st April Fool's Day? And Shivani's like quick as that says, well, it was last year. This year it's WrestleMania Day.
Yeah, I do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Consummate salesman for 30 plus years, man.
I love Shivani. I just
So
adore
good.
him. Right, right now we're backstage again of Jimmy Hart. He's pumping up Earthquake and that Dino guy in Mania, in the Rumble.
This thing gave me a headache. It did not end. I thought it was bad enough when Vince McMahon named all 30 contestants. We got promos from everyone.
All of them, all 30. Half of the guys I didn't even know who they were, so they didn't really need to talk.
This was so painful, and like everybody was on fucking coke. Can you imagine being part of this locker room?
It was crazy back then.
Can you imagine them at like a strip club?
Every
Jesus,
night, probably.
Man. There was one after this Tuesday in Texas, I think. Vince McMahon went to the strip club with the boys and took like loads of their finishing moves in the club, and he was still cackling about it as they got like escorted out by the police.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've also heard that Vince would do a lot of things to get people arrested and just laugh at them as they're in the back of the cop car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
So you're right, so we get a promo with pretty much every single person that's in the Rumble. I thought when they did 1, 2, 3, I was like, okay, that's cool. But it just kept going and going and going. Half of these guys are very obviously seriously pumped on steroids. We got this one guy, the mighty Hercules. He's just unnaturally huge.
I don't think he should have been allowed to speak because he actually sounded like a southern preacher. It didn't suit the gimmick.
Yeah.
Snooker has an aneurysm, pretty much.
A lot of them do. Did you feel just like after a little while, it was just like, this is a lot of just big men screaming at me and not really saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a pain commentary track of your day. This really hurt my head, honestly. It went so long. It was like 10 minutes. What is the Akeem gimmick, man? So weird. He's like continually moving.
I don't know.
Why does he move so much? Well, he looked happy to be there, at least.
And the very last one is Hulk Hogan, of course. Could he be any more tanned and oiled up?
Oh my god, he looked amazing.
So oiled up, though. Like, you could literally see your reflection in his abs.
It was so painfully clear the difference between Hogan and the entire rest of the roster. Like, his promo was exciting. It made sense.
The only one that actually made sense.
The only one that made sense. It proved so easily that Hogan was the best in the game.
And then the closing line. You ready for this?
Go on.
What are you going to do when Hulkamania rumbles all over you?
Oh, nice.
Sexy.
Oh, do you reckon he said that in his sex tape?
Yeah, definitely did.
I'm rumbling, brother.
That's where my mind went anyway.
Oh, dirty.
Right. So, the 2 feet rule isn't a thing yet, is it? Because there was some very questionable eliminations in this Rumble.
Yeah, this was...
A couple of guys got announced as being eliminated when they were still stood on the apron, not even when they were down on the concrete.
Ted DiBiase started off with Coco Beware, and Coco Beware painted his head half red, half white. And I'm not even just saying this for a joke on the podcast. I genuinely thought for a second that the white bit was bird shit from his bird. Like, just poor choice of paint, I think.
Fantastic.
Really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So DiBiase goes on to last the longest in this match, which at this point was a record. And they were really putting him over.
Apparently they went on to break this pretty much every year until they finally settled on the guy that they actually wanted it. But yeah, DiBiase, looking through this roster, there's a couple of guys that should have won the big one that never did. Like, I get that Jake Roberts never won it because he wasn't reliable enough, obviously. Because apparently Vince McMahon was super high on Jake Roberts for years and years, but he couldn't be seen as somebody that could carry the title.
Is that any surprise? Because he comes out in number 4 and the crowd literally goes berserk. I think other than Hulk Hogan, he gets the loudest reaction of the entire thing.
Well, nearly. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, no, I mean, and it was something special as well, right? Even you felt it when Jake came out. That really great music hit, and he's looking very, very serious, carrying a bag on his back. He looked like a superstar. He
did.
I can see the appeal. Yeah. But I mean, Ted DiBiase, Roddy Piper. Why did these guys never get a run? Do you think?
Yeah, Roddy Piper equally got a massive pop.
Is it just the Hogan effect that these guys never got?
Yeah, it must be timing because they're in the shadow of Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Randy Savage. I guess just struggled to get through that to the top of the card.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit here where an amazing bit. I'm not sure whether it was just as special back then, but there's a bit where the four guys in the ring, give or take Warlord, are DiBiase, Savage, Jake Roberts, and Roddy, and they sort of go into an impromptu tag match with the faces versus the heels. Yeah, that was amazing. It was really exciting. And one thing I'd noticed here is that the four-way exchange, the big single stars tag matches never happened, which made them super special when they did for a brief while in Rumble or when they got to Survivor Series. Vince must be like pretty upset about how he's spoiled the audience, that he literally always needs to throw these tag matches in now, because those four guys going against each other for those couple of minutes was really special.
And you can feel that it feels special. Like it's a
Definitely.
moment that these guys are all just accidentally in the same ring at the same time. It's something that New Japan do right now, and they actually managed to do a lot like what you're talking about, how Vince was doing back then, where you keep people separated for years and years and years, and then they accidentally cross paths, and it's just a real magical moment.
And this is the problem, I think, with current wrestling, and this is all umbrellas. This is not just WWE, this is AEW, this is every promotion. I don't know whether it's because they have too much content to fill, that they need to put high-quality matches on every single week, that the crowd has changed, that the viewer has changed, but there is so much oversaturation of every single wrestler. I can't blame any of them for not getting over to the extent that they used to, because they have to wrestle every single Monday night or every single Wednesday night, and you get sick of the same guys even if you love them. It's so rare now to regularly enjoy a guy every single week permanently like we do Cody or MJF, because it takes something really, really special to manage to do that.
I mean, they were doing that back then, weren't they? Saying that they were wrestling that often, but I guess maybe not as much was televised back then as it is now.
Yeah, so I mean, it was all house shows, and you had the Saturday night main event, which was the special event, which that's when you knew Hogan would be on the show, and he would face somebody else. Yeah. On the other shows, you'd get maybe like a Hogan promo. You'd have a main event of two guys that were known, and pretty much the entire rest of the show was a known guy versus a jobber. And that's literally how they sold TV.
And is it also that maybe matches don't go as long nowadays as they did back then? So there was less matches per card?
Yeah, that's definitely another great reason as to why this whole thing feels oversaturated now. Something about just keeping a guy and not doing anything with him. Like, I would love it if Roman just keeps doing promos from his office and he just doesn't come out. And to an extent, MJF is pretty good at it. I don't know whether that's MJF himself or somebody planning that for him, but he comes out maybe once every 2-3 weeks and has a match like once a month.
I don't know. With Roman, though, like a modern audience, I can't see that really working.
And maybe that's why they don't want to try it. But I still feel like it might add incredible amounts of... No, but look at the example. Why is Brock so over?
Yeah, true, because we don't see him so often.
Brock doesn't wrestle Raws. Brock doesn't wrestle SmackDowns.
He feels special when you do see him.
Yeah, he's taken a note out of Hogan's book, basically.
Very true. So I don't know how much you want to go through the entire Rumble, because it's not like modern Rumbles where there's almost a set piece the entire time. It felt like when there was a big star in the ring, something happened, and then in between there was not a lot happening at all.
There was a lot of, as we have seen in Royal Rumble history for pretty much its entirety, I love the bits when it slows down, they quietly start pushing each other against the ropes. Yeah. Like in silence. just pushing each other. But I gotta say, this was more entertaining and fast-paced than a lot of modern Rumbles, which I was very surprised by.
Yeah, it seems to be one of the more loved Rumbles of all time.
Well, Conrad and Pritchard said this was their favourite wrestling show.
Their favourite wrestling show?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah. I assume it's nostalgia for different reasons for both.
Yeah, it must be, because it was a good Rumble, but I don't think the undercard was anything to shout about.
So can we talk about the Hogan effect? Because
yes.
Warrior comes out and the place comes unglued. And you said Jake got the biggest.
No, like the third biggest.
Yeah, so the writing was on the wall here. I think Hogan was probably shitting himself because there were very few decibel levels between the pop that Ultimate Warrior got and Hogan got. If anything, I feel like Ultimate Warrior actually edged it over Hogan.
Well, that's the thing, right? Warrior was so popular at this point, they wanted to give him the belts, but Hulk Hogan politicked himself to still be top dog.
Yeah.
That's the story of the Mania, anyway.
But, I mean, on top of Hogan politicking, I just also thought that the Warrior was really badly booked in this. Like, he almost immediately, after throwing a couple of guys around, gets lost in the shuffle with guys like Jim Neidhart, which absolutely should not be happening. Like, I feel like Warrior should have had at least some form of story, even if subtle, running throughout the Rumble till Hogan turned up.
And the what are the fake Road Warriors?
Oh, Demolition.
Yeah.
Axe and Smash.
So one of those guys is in the ring at this point as well, and he's getting far too much offense on Warrior and even Hogan when Hogan finally gets in.
Right. So when Hogan, this is the bit where it kind of gets completely screwed up. Hogan comes in, and there's this really special moment when they finally clear the ring between Hogan and Warrior.
Yeah. Like
the stare down, it feels magnetic, feels electric. And then, I can't remember who it is. Barbarian, I think? Yeah, this really weird bit. Barbarian comes down, and only, I think, Hogan Warrior in the ring, he's beating them both up.
Yeah.
Like, the Barbarian is beating up Hogan and Warrior simultaneously, which was so weird.
Hogan and Warrior do like a double clothesline or shoulder barge into each other, and they're both laid out. Which is weird in itself, because it's obviously very faked, because they haven't actually had that much. They're not like beating the shit out of, so they should get up from a clothesline. Then Barbarian, like you said, Barbarian comes in and he's just dropping elbows on them, and it's like, what, this guy, really? Why isn't Hogan Hoganing up, you know?
Well, I mean, just the Barbarian beating up either of these guys would be one thing. Barbarian beating up both at the same time is quite something else. And obviously somebody in the back realised that, because Rick Rude runs out before he's supposed to. There's no music, there's no countdown.
Nothing.
So obviously somebody in the back was like, you need to get out there because this is not going well.
I didn't make that connection, because I've written down that Rick Rude jumps the gun just as a heelish thing, but it was to go save the match.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, again, like, foresight, guys. You know, like, what happened here? Why did Hogan and Warrior just lay down for the Barbarian for like 3 or 4 minutes?
Why did Hulk Hogan come out at number 25 and then Barbarian came out at 27, and then the Mighty Hercules at 29? I hate it when like John Cena or Edge, they come out at number 30 and it's like, oh, of course. But like in this era, it makes sense surely that Hogan comes out at least like 28 or 29, right?
It was just really weird, this bit. It was just really surreal. Like, I can't imagine. This is the equivalent of like Cena and Triple H laying down for Snitsky or whatever. You know, it's really, really
seconds
strange.
Before that, we get Shawn Michaels run out, and then he gets the he gets that spot where he lost.
He got squashed.
He gets the classic Rumble spot where you last less than a second. You're in, you're out straight away.
He got jobbed. These are the good old days where Shawn Michaels got jobbed by Warrior and said, "Yeah, thank you, sir." Those are good old days before fucking Shawn Michaels got so egotistical that he couldn't have a match with Vader.
But Marty Jannetty got like 30 minutes in this match.
He also got a massive pop.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels was, bam, you get that second.
I assume Shawn Michaels had pissed somebody off backstage again.
Just that was surprising for me that it wasn't the other way around. Shawn Michaels was in there earlier on, lasted longer, and Jannetty.
I was actually surprised as well by how much of a mid-card dude Bret Hart was at this time.
Yeah, he got nothing. He comes out at number 8, and I've almost got no notes about him. I don't even remember who eliminates him.
He's just a body in the ring here, which was strange.
Yeah.
Still, did you write down all the numbers as well?
Yeah, I did.
Why did we both do that and know that we were not going to use it?
Let's get to this ending, because...
Right. So,
Mr. Perfect comes out.
Warrior gets eliminated really awkwardly.
Yeah.
Comes back and beats up some randomers, and then runs out again.
Just full speed runs.
Really awkwardly. What? That was a really fucking weird way to push Warrior.
Yeah, and he doesn't even go for Hogan. I think it's Barbarian and Hercules he attacks.
He looked like an absolute loser here.
Yeah.
He got beaten fair and square by two mid-card guys, came back because he was upset about it, beat them up, then left again because he had forgotten what he was doing.
To your point, because the commentary made very much a point about this. What you were saying about who is the heel, who is the face. So the two guys are trying to eliminate Hogan, and Warrior actually makes the save and stops Hogan being eliminated. But then the reverse happens, and then Hogan comes in from behind and helps them eliminate Warrior. So Hogan is almost playing the heel here.
Yeah, and once again, Jesse Ventura calls it out. He said Hogan's being a schmuck or whatever.
And then Schiavone has to try and keep the Hulkamania alive.
I'm not sure whether this was Hogan politicking, but it made absolutely no sense, and this was bad booking. Like, considering Ultimate Warrior, according to Pritchard, had been booked in for WrestleMania 6 since the previous Survivor Series, this was an awful way of building the two up to face against each other. And I'm sitting listening to podcasts and stuff saying, people are telling me this was fantastic, this was amazing. This was atrocious. This was a terrible way to treat Warrior. I'm actually amazed that they had such a good blow-off, such a good match, and so many people were into it, considering that this was the first beginning seed of dissension between the two.
In the moment, it's a big thing. But looking back at it, they had a 5-minute moment, if that. And then Hogan's...
Most of the time that they were supposedly having a moment, they were getting beaten up by a mid-card guy.
I think it was that they were working together, because they're both meant to be faces, right? So they were working together, and then Hogan backstabbed him. That's the catalyst of this thing.
It is quite interesting, though, because I can't really think of a match from this era in which a face-to-face. This is... so maybe they were just a little bit confused as to how to, pull the trigger on this, because they needed both Hogan and Warrior to be a face because of money. But they weren't really sure about how to go about putting the two together and creating a feud.
Right. And then in the closing minutes, Hulk Hogan does what he does best. He's getting double-teamed by Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude. I think it's Perfect, actually, that eliminates Rude, right? And then Hogan eliminates Perfect. And then
this was the point where I kind of gave up.
And then in the last... Well,
I wasn't paying attention. I stopped taking notes.
And then the last couple of minutes of the pay-per-view felt like way too long. Hogan is just posing in the ring with his theme tune. American flags come down. The classic Hulk Hogan closing of a show.
But yeah, he did this every single pay-per-view.
And it lasts a long time.
Yeah, a really long time. It just does not go off the air. I mean, what can I say? Hogan looked like an absolute beast here. I think this was probably his physical peak. Yeah. But it was just business as usual, brother.
This is definitely mid Hulkamania era.
I would say this is the beginning of the end, actually.
But it's still full cylinders.
Oh yeah, 100%. But as soon as I lost interest when the final four were a bunch of guys that you could never see beat Hulk Hogan. The only thing that if they're just, I don't know what happened with the Warrior here. But he should have, at the very least, he should have been in the final four, and they should have done it then.
Well, Warrior and Hogan both got 2 eliminations when they first came into the ring, and then they were helping each other. I generally thought that they were going to go through the last 4 or 5 guys and be the last 2 in the ring. And how amazing would that have been just to see them just really destroy the upper mid card of the roster together, and then have to face each other.
I like Hogan, man, but I can see why so many wrestlers talk shit about him, because there's so many times that he ruined opportunities for so many people, whether by accident or by force. Can you imagine if Hogan wasn't in this match and Warrior won it? We'd see a different strain of history. There'd be Warrior would not have had the patchy career and left that he did. He would have been. They probably would have made another Hogan, which is what they tried to do later on when it was too late with Lex Luger.
What is the Mania where Hogan gets eliminated and then throws a tantrum and then helps Ric Flair eliminate someone?
I don't remember Ric Flair in it.
Oh, maybe it's not Ric Flair. Maybe it's someone else.
Hogan gets disqualified with Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 4.
No, in a Rumble. So Hogan gets eliminated in a Rumble, and then he basically pulls on someone from outside of the ring to eliminate the person that eliminated him.
If it's Flair, it must be 92.
Oh, okay.
Because, well, I mean, Royal Rumble 92 is... really hope we actually get to that show, because that's the show that Flair comes in at number 1 and wins the classic Flair Rumble.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah.
Okay, so overall, what did you think of Royal Rumble 1990?
Overall, I actually gave it 5 out of 10. I enjoyed myself while I was watching it. It was a surprisingly fun show. I learned that Greg Valentine versus Ronnie Garvin was great, that I really liked the Genius. I thought the Rumble up until Hogan was a really solid effort. WWF in 1990 is not for me, especially considering what we went on to watch next, which I absolutely loved. So overall, I'm not upset that I saw it. I'm glad that I've seen it and I watched it, but it's not something I'd particularly be going back to.
No, I can't imagine ever rewatching this again. And like you said, I had more fun with WCW. I think as wrestling fans, in the era, we would have been WCW fans.
Easy, yeah. Even at our age, even at like 8 or whatever, I think would be WCW.
Yeah, so I know you're not a massive fan of Meltzer, but Dave Meltzer is pretty much the only person I can find that was rating wrestling matches in the 1990s. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
there might be someone
I think
else
I
there.
saw these. Some of them are really weird. Some of them are like crazy over the top.
Oh no! With this show, he agrees with us.
Okay.
He's given the.
It must have been something else. Another rating I read.
He's given the submission match that we both liked 2 stars and the Rumble 3 stars.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously,
Sure, man.
obviously, that is in the time. Watching it back, you might say something completely different, but like in the moment, that was a good Rumble. That was considered a pretty decent match.
I thought it was a good Rumble. I did up until the Warrior debacle.
Okay, well, yeah, there we go. So our next pod will be on WCW's... Is it Clash of Champions or Night of Champions? It's Clash.
Clash of Champions,
Champions
10.
Texas Shootout. Whoa, there we go. That's how excited we are
Which
for that.
I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to this stuff, Ben. I'm really... wild thing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh my god, that rap video. We'll save it for next time.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're doing Clash, but we're not doing Superstars. That's correct?
Saturday night main event.
That's the one, sorry.
Well, we can if you want. It makes sense.
I don't want... I don't necessarily want to, but there is one episode of the main event, I think in 92. So a little while from where we currently are.
We can watch the main event whenever you would like to watch the main event. Okay, so this heats up proper after the Clash show. This is where it truly gets pedal to the metal, WCW versus WWF.
Right.
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.